The emerald rings of Ethoria cast their ethereal glow across the Grand Council chamber, where Princess Valara stood before the massive viewing screen, her silver-scaled skin reflecting the starlight. The Etherian princess's luminous golden eyes narrowed as she studied the approaching human diplomatic vessel. After centuries of isolation, the Etherian Empire had finally decided to establish formal contact with Earth's United Federation. "Your Highness," First Advisor Jarix bowed deeply, his ceremonial robes rustling against the polished floor. "Are you certain about this course of action? Humans are known to be unpredictable." Valara turned to face her advisor, her movements graceful despite the weight of her royal regalia. "We cannot hide behind our rings forever, Jarix. The galaxy changes, and we must change with it." The human vessel grew larger on the screen, its sleek design a stark contrast to the organic curves of Etherian architecture. Captain James Harrison stood on his bridge, adjusting his dress uniform one final time. After 15 years in the Federation Space Force, this was by far his most important mission. Approaching final checkpoint, Captain, his navigation officer announced. "Etherian Control is requesting final verification." Harrison nodded, squaring his shoulders. "Send the diplomatic codes. Let's not keep our hosts waiting." He'd studied everything available about the Etherians, which wasn't much. Their civilization had remained largely mysterious, emerging only recently to engage with other species. The assignment to lead this first official diplomatic mission had been unexpected, but Harrison's record of successful first contact scenarios had earned him the role. The diplomatic reception began smoothly enough. Etherian guards, their armor seemingly alive with shifting patterns, escorted Harrison and his small team into the council chamber. The captain had attended countless diplomatic functions, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of Princess Valar. Their eyes met across the chamber, and for a moment the carefully choreographed ceremony seemed to freeze. Harrison felt an inexplicable pull, a connection that transcended species and protocol. The princess's golden eyes widened slightly, and he knew she felt it too. The formal introductions proceeded according to plan, but that initial moment had changed everything. As Harrison presented his credentials and spoke of humanity's desire for peaceful relations, he found himself constantly aware of Valara's presence, her subtle movements, the way her expressions shifted like light through water. The delegation's first day stretched into evening, and Harrison found himself alone with the princess in the palace's botanical gardens. Massive floating spheres of bioluminescent plants created a dreamlike atmosphere. "Your people have achieved much in a relatively short time, Captain," Valara said, her voice carrying musical undertones that human vocal cords couldn't produce. "But there are many who fear that progress. They believe humans advance too quickly, without wisdom to match their capabilities." Harrison studied her profile against the garden's ethereal lighting. "And what do you believe, Your Highness?" She turned to face him, and that strange connection flared again. "I believe that fear of the unknown breeds only ignorance. We must learn to see beyond our differences." The conversation flowed easily, touching on their respective cultures, philosophies, and personal experiences. Harrison found himself sharing stories of his childhood in the colonies of Mars, while Valara spoke of the weight of royal responsibility and her dreams for her people's future. The peaceful moment shattered when alarms began blaring throughout the palace. Security forces rushed into the garden, led by Jarix. "Your Highness, we've detected unauthorized vessels entering the system. They bear human signatures." Harrison's communicator buzzed with urgent messages from his ship. Raiders, pirates taking advantage of the diplomatic mission to slip past Etherian defenses. Before anyone could react, The first explosions lit up the night sky. "This is not our doing," Harrison insisted, seeing the suspicion in the guard's eyes. "Let me help. I know their tactics." Falara made a swift decision. "Captain Harrison will coordinate with our defense forces. Now is the time to prove that trust between our peoples is possible." The next hours tested both Harrison's tactical skills and the fragile trust between humans and Etherians. Working closely with Valara, who revealed herself to be a skilled strategist, they managed to outmaneuver the raiders. Harrison's knowledge of human ship capabilities complemented the advanced Etherian technology. In the heat of battle, conventional barriers fell away. Harrison watched in awe as Valara used her species' natural ability to interface with technology, her consciousness linking directly with the defense systems. She, in turn, was impressed by his quick thinking and adaptability. The crisis passed, but it left an indelible mark on both of them. In the quiet aftermath, as they stood watching emergency teams clear the debris, Harrison felt the weight of something profound shifting between them. "You risked everything to help us," Valara said softly. "Many would have used the chaos to their advantage." "I gave my word," Harrison replied simply. "Where I come from, that still means something." "And where you come from, Captain," she turned to face him fully, "what would they say about a human who finds himself drawn to an alien princess?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Harrison knew he should maintain diplomatic distance, remember his duty, his position. But standing there, seeing the same wondering vulnerability in her golden eyes that he felt in his heart, protocol seemed very far away. "They would say it's impossible," he answered honestly. "They would say there are too many differences, too many barriers." "And what do you say?" Her question was barely a whisper. Harrison took a step closer. Protocol be damned. "I say that the greatest discoveries in human history came from daring to attempt the impossible." Their first touch was tentative, his hand reaching for hers, fingers intertwining despite their different forms. The connection they'd felt from the first moments sparked into something stronger, more real. Neither of them could know that this moment would change not just their lives, but the future of both their species. As the first light of Ethoria's sun began to paint the sky in shades of green and gold, both the human captain and the alien princess knew they had started down a path from which there could be no return. The question was whether their worlds were ready for where that path might lead. In the days following the raider attack, the Etherian palace buzzed with an undercurrent of tension. Princess Valara found herself spending increasingly more time in the ancient archives, seeking answers to the strange connection she shared with Harrison. The vast chamber, with its swirling holographic texts and living memory crystals, held secrets dating back to the dawn of her civilization. "You've been avoiding the council meetings," Sharix observed, his tone careful as he approached her research station. "The elders are beginning to talk." Falara's fingers danced through the floating symbols, ancient Etherian text casting a blue glow across her silver-scaled features. "I'm not avoiding anything. I'm searching for answers." "About the human." Sharix moved closer, lowering his voice. "Your Highness, whatever this fascination is, it must end. The Genetic Council has already selected potential mates for the noble houses." But Valara barely heard him. Her attention was fixed on a particular passage, one speaking of an ancient prophecy. The text pulsed with an inner light as she translated. "When the children of distant stars join hands, the great divide shall heal. Two bloodlines, separate yet one, will bridge the void between worlds." Meanwhile, Harrison faced his own challenges aboard the diplomatic vessel. Admiral Chen's holographic image flickered as she delivered her warning. "The Federation Council is concerned, Captain. Your reports suggest an unusual degree of personal involvement with the Etherian leadership. With respect, Admiral, Harrison maintained his professional stance. Building trust requires genuine connection. The Etherians value authenticity above all else. Just remember why you're there, Harrison. We need those trade routes. The Federation's expansion depends on Etherian cooperation. The Admiral's image flickered again, and there are rumors of something more valuable, their quantum navigation technology, if we could acquire that. Harrison's jaw tightened. My mission is diplomatic relations, not technology acquisition. The Admiral's expression hardened. Your mission is whatever the Federation requires, Captain. Don't forget that. Later that evening, Harrison found himself in the palace's observatory, where the princess often retreated for solitude. The massive dome opened to the stars, Aethoria's rings creating a spectacular light show above them. Your people are watching me closely, Valara said without turning, sensing his presence. As are mine. Harrison moved to stand beside her. They're right to be concerned. Whatever this is between us, it's unprecedented. She turned to face him, her golden eyes intense. Perhaps not as unprecedented as we thought. She shared her discovery of the ancient prophecy, watching his reaction carefully. You believe this refers to humans and Etherians. Harrison's scientific mind wrestled with the implications. It could be about any species. The text specifically mentions children of distant stars. Your people are the only ones who have traveled so far to reach us. She hesitated. There's more. The archives speak of a time when our species were more similar, before the Great Divergence. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent alert. Harrison's communicator and the palace systems activated simultaneously. Reports flooded in of an attack on an Etherian research outpost near the system's edge. When they reached the command center, the situation became clear. Raiders had struck again, but this time their target was specific. They had stolen experimental quantum navigation data. The same technology the Federation was so interested in. This was coordinated, Valara stated, studying the attack patterns. They knew exactly where to strike and when. Harrison felt sick as realization dawned. The timing, the precision. This had Federation fingerprints all over it. Your Highness, I need to tell you something. But before he could confess, another alert sounded. The quantum data was being transmitted, and the signal pointed directly to a Federation frequency. The atmosphere in the command center turned hostile. Guards moved closer to Harrison, their armor pulsing with threatening patterns. Jarek stepped forward, his voice cold. Arrest the human delegation. All of them. Wait. Valara's command froze everyone in place. Captain Harrison fought beside us before. We owe him the chance to explain. Harrison looked into her eyes, seeing trust warring with duty. The Federation wants your navigation technology. They've been planning this since before I arrived. But I swear to you I knew nothing about this attack. You expect us to believe you knew nothing of your government's plans. Jalric scoffed. I believe him, Valara stated firmly, and I can prove it. She stepped forward, raising her hand toward Harrison. If you trust me, take my hand. Harrison understood what she was offering. The Etherian ability to link minds, to share thoughts and memories. It was considered intimate, reserved for family and bondmates. The guards shifted uncomfortably. Without hesitation, Harrison took her hand. The connection bloomed between them, stronger than ever before. Memories flowed, his genuine desire for peace, his growing feelings for her, his disgust at the Federation's secret agenda. But there was more. Through their touch, the ancient prophecy seemed to resonate, as if their very cells recognized each other. When they separated, Falara turned to her advisors. He speaks the truth, but we face a greater threat than simple theft. The Federation means to use our technology to expand their empire. We must act. The Federation doesn't speak for all humans, Harrison added, still reeling from the mental connection. If we expose this plot, others will stand with us. Us? Jarix raised an eyebrow. You'd stand against your own people. Harrison looked at Valara, understanding finally what the prophecy meant. I stand for what's right, and I'm beginning to think that's exactly where I'm meant to be. As emergency meetings were called and plans formulated, Harrison and Valara shared a moment alone. The mental link had changed something between them, making their connection impossible to deny. The prophecy speaks of bridging worlds, Valara said softly. It never said it would be easy. Harrison took her hand again, feeling that now familiar resonance. Nothing worth fighting forever is. As Ethoria's rings cast their light across the palace, two beings from different stars stood together, unknowingly setting in motion events that would reshape the future of both their species. The ancient prophecy was awakening, but so too were forces that would stop at nothing to keep their worlds apart. The sacred combat arena of the Etherian palace glowed with ancient power, its living metal walls shifting like quicksilver in the dawn light. Harrison stood in the center, bare-chested and marked with ceremonial sigils, facing his third challenger of the morning. Around him, hundreds of Aetherian nobles watched in tense silence as he underwent the trial of worth, a tradition as old as their civilization. The human has survived longer than expected, whispered a member of the High Council to Jarix. Perhaps there is more to him than we thought. Harrison's muscles burned as he circled his opponent, an Etherian warrior twice his size. The previous duels had taught him that while Etherians possessed superior strength and natural armor, they moved in predictable patterns, a weakness he could exploit. From her ceremonial position above the arena, Valara watched with carefully controlled emotion. She had argued against this trial, but Harrison had insisted. If I'm to stand with you, he told her, I need to earn their respect. The Etherian warrior struck, his blade crackling with energy. Harrison moved like water, using his opponent's momentum against him. Years of combat training merged with what he'd learned about Etherian physiology. The fight was brutal but brief. Minutes later, Harrison stood victorious, offering a hand to help his fallen opponent rise, a human gesture that caused murmurs among the crowd. But victory brought no rest. As Harrison was led from the arena, alarms blared throughout the palace. Federation ships had been detected entering the system, led by none other than Admiral Chen herself. They're not here for diplomacy, Harrison said grimly, studying the tactical display with Valara and her commanders. Those are warships, not diplomatic vessels. The Federation demands the return of their kidnapped captain and delegation, Jalrix reported, his tone bitter. They claim we're holding you against your will. It's worse than that, Valara added, her golden eyes dark with concern. Our deep space sensors detect more ships gathering beyond the system's edge. They're positioning for a full invasion. Harrison's jaw tightened. They're using me as an excuse. With the stolen quantum navigation data, they think they can match your technology. They want to force a confrontation while they believe they have the advantage. The next hours were a blur of activity. While Etherian forces mobilized, Harrison and Valara worked to prevent what could become an interstellar war. They managed to make contact with sympathetic elements within the Federation, other captains and officials who opposed the Admiral's aggressive stance. Your trial proved something important, Valara said as they worked. not just to my people, but to the prophecy itself. She guided him to an ancient scanner, its organic crystals pulsing with light. Your cellular structure has begun to change since our mental link. You're adapting to become compatible with Etherian biology. Harrison stared at the readings. Is that even possible? The prophecy speaks of two bloodlines becoming one. We're not just creating metaphorical bridges between our peoples, we're evolving to make it physically possible. Their discussion was interrupted by a transmission from Admiral Chen. Her holographic image towered in the command center, her expression hard. This is your final warning. Return Captain Harrison and surrender your quantum navigation technology, or we will take it by force. Harrison stepped forward, standing beside Valar. Admiral, you're making a mistake. The Etherians aren't our enemies. Captain, you've been compromised. These aliens have clearly influenced your mind. Stand down. The only ones compromised are those who'd start a war for technology we're not ready for, Harrison replied. I've seen the truth in their memories, Admiral. I know what the Federation really plans to do with quantum navigation. The Admiral's expression turned cold. Then you leave us no choice. The transmission cut off. They'll attack at multiple points, Harrison analyzed, turning to the tactical display. Standard Federation doctrine calls for overwhelming force. He stopped as Valara took his hand, initiating another mental link. In the shared space of their minds, they could communicate instantly, combining his knowledge of Federation tactics with her understanding of Etherian capabilities. Through their connection, Harrison felt the true scope of Etherian power, and understood why the Federation's aggression was a terrible mistake. The quantum technology they'd stolen was just the surface. Etherian science had evolved along completely different lines, achieving things that human science couldn't begin to comprehend. When they separated, both knew what had to be done. We need to show them, Harrison said. Not just defeat them, show them why this path leads nowhere. Valara nodded, then turned to her commanders. Prepare the ancestral defense grid, and send word to the Genetic Council. I'm invoking the right of union. Jalrix's eyes widened. Your Highness, you can't mean. The prophecy isn't just about peace between our peoples, she declared. It's about evolution itself, the next step for both our species. She looked at Harrison. If you're willing. Harrison met her gaze, understanding the magnitude of what she was suggesting. Their union would be more than symbolic. It would be a biological and spiritual joining that could never be undone. I am, he said simply. As Federation ships moved into attack position, deep within the palace, ancient machines hummed to life. The rite of union had begun, even as the first shots of war lit up the sky above Ethoria's emerald rings. The universe held its breath, waiting to see if love could truly bridge the void between stars. The ancient chamber pulsed with bioluminescent energy as Harrison and Valara underwent the rite of union. Around them, the Genetic Council monitored the unprecedented merger of human and Etherian DNA. Through their mental link, they shared every sensation as their bodies transformed at the molecular level. Above the palace, the first shots of battle illuminated the sky. Admiral Chen's forces had engaged the outer defense grid, not yet realizing the true nature of Etherian technology. The quantum navigation data they'd stolen was useless without understanding the biological components that made it work. Multiple Federation vessels breaching the inner defense line. Jalrix reported, his voice echoing through the chamber. They're attempting to penetrate our shields. Valara's golden eyes met Harrison's, now flecked with the same ethereal light as hers. Are you ready? He nodded, feeling the change complete itself within him. His consciousness expanded, connecting not just with Valara, but with the entire Etherian defense network. He finally understood their technology wasn't just machines, but a living extension of their collective consciousness. Together, they rose from the transformation chamber, their bodies radiating a subtle glow. Harrison's skin now held a faint silver sheen, while Valara's scales had taken on a more human-like texture where their patterns merged. The prophecy had transformed them both, creating something entirely new. They reached the command center as Admiral Chen's flagship launched its main assault. Through their shared consciousness, Harrison and Valara acted as one, directing the Etherian defenses with unprecedented precision. Human tactical insight merged with Etherian technological mastery. "Admiral," Harrison broadcast on all frequencies, his voice carrying harmonic undertones that marked his transformation. "Look at your sensor readings. What you're fighting isn't just advanced technology, it's life itself." The Federation ship's weapons proved useless against defenses that adapted and evolved in real time. Quantum-enhanced consciousness spread through the Etherian network, showing the human force's visions of possible futures, both the destruction their path would bring and the potential for something greater. In the flagship's bridge, Admiral Chen stared at readings that defied explanation. Her weapons officers reported systems shutting down, not through force, but through mathematical proofs appearing spontaneously in their computers, demonstrating the fundamental flaws in their approach. "This is what we offer," Valara's voice joined Harrison's in the transmission. "Not surrender, but evolution. The prophecy speaks of unity, not because it's politically expedient, but because it's the next step for both our species." Through the defense grid, they shared the experience of their union, the joining of minds and bodies into something greater than either species could achieve alone. The Federation crews watched in awe as their hostility was met not with destruction, but with understanding. Their aggression answered with an invitation to grow beyond it. One by one, the Federation ships stood down. Admiral Chen, faced with irrefutable evidence of something far beyond military power, finally opened real diplomatic channels. The battle ended not with a victor, but with an awakening. In the days that followed, Harrison and Valara's transformation became a symbol of possibility. The Federation Council, humbled by the demonstration of Etherian power and wisdom, approached with genuine desire for peaceful cooperation. The quantum navigation technology they'd coveted was revealed to be merely a stepping stone toward capabilities that required both species to evolve together. Their wedding united not just two people or two species, but two different paths of evolution. The ceremony, witnessed by representatives from both civilizations, incorporated both Etherian energy-binding rituals and human traditions. As they spoke their vows, their merged consciousness shared the moment with all present, letting everyone feel the depth of their connection. The prophecy wasn't just about us, Harrison realized, standing with his bride beneath the quantum aurora of Ethoria's rings. It was about showing both our peoples that there's another way. Valara smiled, her transformed features capturing the beauty of both species. Every evolution begins with a single change, with just the first. The Etherian Empire and the Human Federation established new protocols for interaction, based not on military power or technological advancement, but on mutual growth. Research teams from both species began studying the transformation process, learning how to safely guide others who wished to follow the path Harrison and Valara had pioneered. Years later, they stood together in the same palace gardens where they'd first connected, watching human and Etherian children play together, some showing signs of the same transformation that had changed their parents. The prophecies promised had blossomed into a future neither species could have imagined alone. Was it worth it? Harrison asked, his transformed eyes reflecting the starlight. changing everything we were. Falara leaned against him, their energies harmonizing naturally. "We didn't change what we were," she replied. "We became what we were always meant to be." Above them, Aethoria's rings shimmered with new colors, a visible sign of how the merger of human and Aetherian science had transformed even the physical world around them. Their love had done more than bridge the void between stars. It had shown both species that the only real boundaries were the ones they created in their own minds. As their civilization continued to evolve, the story of the human warrior and the alien princess became legend, told and retold across the stars. But unlike most legends, this one didn't end with happily ever after. Instead, it ended with a beginning, the start of a new chapter in the history of two species becoming one, reaching together for the infinite possibilities that awaited them among the stars.